I wanted to make sure we had some time today to read through that and really break it down. And so we'll probably spend like the first 30 minutes like reading through it, and then the next 30 minutes uh, having a conversation, commentary. Feel free to make comments throughout the reading, um, but I definitely wanted to make sure that we can try to get through at least as much as we can in the time that we have. Let me put the live stream in the Jumbotron so y'all can watch that if y'all want to. Let's see. Okay, here we go. All right, should be in the live. It should be in the Jumbotron now. All right, so how you doing, Brandy? We're about to read through the judgment that the uh, judge gave Judge Wall. I think her name is Wall or something like that. Let me see. I'm doing all right. How you doing? Pretty good. Just wanted to kind of read through the actual update with the Tulsa case. Basically, this is the latest thing that they tried to dismiss it. The defendants tried to dismiss the case, and the judge like kind of overruled and made this statement. So we're gonna like read through it. So here we go. Um, Order on defendant's motion to dismiss. Now, on this third day of August 2022, comes before the court defendant's motions to dismiss plaintiff's uh, First Amendment petition, plaintiff's responses in opposition, defendant's replies to plaintiff's responses, plaintiff's notice of supplemental authority filed November 10, 2021, plaintiff's supplemental memorandum of law addressing state of Oklahoma versus Johnson, uh, Johnson filed January 31st, 2022, joint response of all defendants to plaintiff's supplemental memorandum of law filed March 7, 2022, and plaintiff's reply memorandum of law addressing state of Oklahoma versus Johnson and Johnson filed April 6, 2022. On September 28, 2021, the matter came on for hearing on the motion to dismiss. Objections in response and replies. On May 2, 2022, the matter came on for further hearing pursuant to plaintiff's notice of supplemental authority and the supplemental memorandums of law. On May 2, 2022, the court heard the argument and statements of counsel regarding the Oklahoma Supreme Court's decision in State of Oklahoma versus Johnson and Johnson et al. 2021, OK 54, issued on November 9, 2021, the J&J decision. Upon the review of the record, considering the pleadings and and the briefs filed in the matter, and considering the arguments and statements of counsel, the court hereby finds and orders as set forth below. On May 2, 2022, pertaining to claim number 2, unjust enrichment against defendants, City of Tulsa, Tulsa Development Authority, Tulsa Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, Board of County Commissioners for Tulsa County, and Tulsa Regional Chamber, plaintiffs' counsel stipulated there were certain defects in pleading. Counsel for plaintiffs and counsel for said defendants stipulated the defects could be cured and jointly requested dismissal without prejudice with leave to amend. The court finds and orders plaintiffs' claim number 2 should be dismissed without prejudice with leave granted to file a second amended petition. The court further finds the Oklahoma Pleading Code 12 OS OS 2008 E2 allows plaintiffs to state their claims for unjust enrichment and or in the alternative statutory claims pursuant to 12 OS 1448 through 1449, commonly referred to as unauthorized use of name and likeness. Therefore, a defendant's motion to dismiss the alternate claims with prejudice are denied. As to the public nuisance claims, the court considers the threshold issue of plaintiffs standing to sue. Each of the 11 named plaintiffs must establish legal standing for the public nuisance claims. Oklahoma's statutes pertaining to nuisances are set forth in 50 OS 1 through 21. The court finds the named plaintiff, Historic Vernon AME Church Inc., lacks standing to sue in this matter. It is undisputed that this church entity did not exist until 2019. The church claims injuries derived from the unknown members of a prior entity. The entity owning owning the property of the church at the time of the massacre in 1921 was an unincorporated association. Thereafter, in 1962, an entity other than plaintiff was incorporated. See Tulsa Regional Chamber's amended motion to dismiss and brief in support filed March 12, 2021, page 6 through 7. Plaintiffs Laurel Stratford, Louise Cochran Price, Tedra Williams, Don M. Adams, Don W. Adams, Stephen Williams, and the Tulsa African Ancestral Society, an unincorporated association, all claim injuries as descendants of massacre victims. Whether a plaintiff possesses legal standing turns on whether each has sufficient interest in an otherwise justifiable controversy to obtain judicial resolution of that controversy. Independent School District Number 5 of Tulsa v. Spry, 2012, OK 98, to Estate of Don versus First National Bank and Trust Company of Tulsa, 1986, OK 15. Independent School District Number 9 of Tulsa County versus Glass, 1982, OK 2. So these are like references to other cases that they're saying prove their point. Standing compromises at least three elements. One, does each plaintiff possess a legally protected interest that was injured? In fact, that is an injury that is actual, concrete, and not merely conjectural. Two, is there a causal nexus between the injury and the complained of conduct? And three, is there a likelihood, as opposed to mere speculation, a favorable court decision will redress the injury? J.P. Morgan Chase National Bank versus Eldridge, 2012, OK 24. The court finds these 8 plaintiffs have failed to establish standing to sue on claims of public nuisance in this case. In so finding, the court adopts the reasoning and citation to authority set forth in the Tulsa Regional Chamber's amended motion to dismiss and brief in support filed March 12, 2021, pages 1 through 16. Legal standards for standing to sue, Proposition 1. As to the public nuisance claims, the court similarly considers the threshold issue of whether each of the Tulsa Race Massacre survivor plaintiffs have established standing to sue. Leslie Bedingfield Randall, Viola Fletcher, and Hughes Van Ellis Sr. It is not necessary to decide whether a litigant will ultimately be entitled to any relief in order to hold that the party has standing to seek judicial redress for his or her grievance. But the relief being sought must, if granted, be capable of remedying the injury. Glass, 1982, OK 2. Oklahoma law provides a private person may maintain an action for a public nuisance if it is specifically injurious to himself, but not otherwise. 50 OS 10. The court finds plaintiffs Randall Fletcher and Van Ellis Sr. meet this statutory criteria, at least to withstand a motion to dismiss under Oklahoma's liberal pleading code, discussed with more particularity below. However, the criteria is not the only element to be considered in the determination of whether each of these 3 plaintiffs have justifiable public nuisance claims, as pled in this case. As to the claims of ongoing public nuisance for events in the decades subsequent to the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, the court finds these ongoing claims of public nuisance must be dismissed with prejudice because these claims request relief that violates the separations of powers provided by the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma. See Oklahoma Constitution, Article 4, 1, Oklahoma Constitution, Article 5, 1. Further, the court finds these claims present political questions, and therefore dismissal is proper. See Oklahoma Education Association versus State ex rel. Oklahoma Legislator, 2007, Oklahoma 30, 18 through 19, and re the annexation of certain real property from City of Seminole, 2004, Oklahoma 60. Therefore, the court dismisses with prejudice the public nuisance claims described in plaintiff's amended petition, seeking relief for all alleged unreasonable, unwarranted, and unlawful actions or omissions of defendants in the decades subsequent to the 1921 race massacre, including but not limited to policing, urban planning, urban renewal, and public schools. Damn. Further in dismissal of these claims, the court relies upon the Supreme Court's decision in State of Oklahoma versus Johnson & Johnson et al. 2021 OK 54. In the J&J decision, the Oklahoma Supreme Court stated the court has allowed public nuisance claims to address discrete, localized problems, not policy problems, erasing the traditional limits on nuisance liability leaves Oklahoma's nuisance statutes impermissibly vague. The district court's expansion of public nuisance law allows courts to manage public policy matters that should be dealt with by the legislative and executive branches, the branches that are more capable than courts to balance the competing interests at play in societal problems. Further, the district court stepping into the shoes of the legislator by creating and funding government programs designed to address social and health issues goes too far. This court defers policy making to the legislative and executive branches and rejects the unprecedented expansion of public nuisance law. See State of Oklahoma versus Johnson et al. 2021 OK 54. Thus, based on the above findings and orders of the court, the remaining claims are the public nuisance claims from the 1921 race massacre of plaintiffs Leslie Benningfield Randolph, Viola Fletcher, and Hughes Van Ellis Sr. As to these claims, the court dismisses with prejudice defendants Tulsa Development Authority and Tulsa Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, as neither of these two public bodies existed in 1921. On May 2nd, 2022, defendants moved to dismiss these public nuisance claims pursuant to 1207 OS 2012 B6 for failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted on the grounds that the specifically pled abatement remedies are not cognizable under Oklahoma law because the remedies would require the court to engage in the management of public policy matters. See generally plaintiffs' requested remedies, plaintiffs' amended petition, page 67 to 73. On May 2nd, 2022, pertaining to whether plaintiffs' amended petition should be dismissed pursuant to the J&J decision of the Supreme Court of Oklahoma, counsel for plaintiffs presented to the court that the abatement remedies were preliminary in nature and any defect in pleading can be cured by plaintiffs if granted leave to amend. Counsel for plaintiffs and defendants dispute whether a general statement requesting the remedy of abatement is sufficient to state a claim for public nuisance. Oklahoma Statute 50 OS 8 provides three remedies against a public nuisance: 1, indictment or information, or 2, a civil action, or 3, abatement. When considering a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim, the court is required to take as true all the factual allegations together with all reasonable inferences that can be drawn from them, and to examine the controlling law. Laundrie v. Dominion, LLC, 2015, OK 53, 8, emphasis added. Courts view motions to dismiss with disfavor under Oklahoma's liberal pleading standard. See Laundrie 2015, OK 53. A pleading must not be dismissed for failure to state a legally cognizable claim unless the allegations indicate beyond any doubt that the litigant can prove no set of facts which would entitle him to relief. Frazier v. Bryan, Memorial Hospital Authority, 1989, OK 73. For the reasons set forth above, the court finds defendants' motions to dismiss should be granted for failure to state a cognizable abatement remedy. This court declines to engage in the management of public policy matters that should be dealt with by the legislative and executive branches. See J&J decision 2021 OK 54. However, applying Oklahoma's liberal pleading standard, the court cannot find beyond any doubt that plaintiffs Randall, Fletcher, and Van Ellis Sr. can prove no set of facts which would entitle plaintiffs to relief on their public nuisance claim. See J&J Decision 2021, OK 54, 18 FN 13. To the extent that there may be legally cognizable abatement remedy, the court grants leave to amend the petition pursuant to 12 OS 2012. The court takes judicial notice of the findings of the Oklahoma legislature pursuant to the final report of the 1921 Tulsa Race Riot Commission, codified in Title 74 OS 8001, as cited in plaintiff's amended petition filed February 2nd, 2021, page 3, FN3. A copy of the findings of the Oklahoma legislature is attached hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated herein. Also, the court takes judicial notice of the Oklahoma's legislation as cited in Tulsa Regional Chamber's amended general motion to dismiss as to all plaintiffs and brief in support filed March 12, 2021, pages 5 through 6. The court attaches hereto as Exhibit B and incorporates herein excerpts of Oklahoma's legislation, which the court finds directly applicable to the issues raised in plaintiff's amended petition. Wherefore, the court hereby finds and orders defendants' motions to dismiss are granted in part and denied in part, as more specifically set forth here and above. Plaintiffs shall be granted leave to file a second amendment petition no later than September 2nd, 2022. It is so ordered on the third day of August, 2022. Okay, so that's basically the entire judge's decision. So it reading through it, you kind of get a feeling that like it's a little restricting in terms of what it's allowing. It's only allowing 3 of the plaintiffs mentioned in the suit, which there's 11, so only 3 are being allowed to sue. And sue under this public nuisance claim, but not under anything else. And even that seems somewhat limited as well. The lawyers, on the other hand, seem somewhat pleased with it. They put out a press release that was basically, in favor, I guess, of it. Let me see if I can pull it up. But yeah, what are y'all thoughts? What do you think, Heavenly, and then we'll go to Brandy?
What was the issue with the other? I was trying to listen to your live and just at the same time. So
yeah.
I kept going back and forth.
No worries.
What about the other plaintiffs? What was the reason that they couldn't?
They basically said something like, I could pull up the part where they mentioned the other plaintiffs. They were basically saying they didn't have any standing. Let me see if I can find that part.
I was just ready to say that. Okay, because they're not directly.
Let's see.
They're not directly affected. Is that probably why? Or?
It said 11 named plaintiffs. Okay, so the court finds that the named plaintiffs, Historic Vernon AME Church, Inc., lacks standing to sue in this matter. It is undisputed that this church entity did not exist until 2019. So they're saying kind of like, they go on to say the church claims injuries derived from the unknown members of a prior entity. The entity owning the property of the church at the time of the massacre in 1921 was an unincorporated association. So they're basically saying you're trying to like claim like damages that someone else suffered, essentially. I'm not saying that's true or not, but that's what they're saying in this.
That's what it sounds like. That's why reparations is so important.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
I wonder if there's I guess I'll Google it while everybody else gets a turn to talk. I'll get myself and see what the reparation status is in Oklahoma. I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they have a commission. That's a good question.
They don't have anything going on up there. I'm originally from Oklahoma. My family's still there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, what's the name? A Boogie is in Oklahoma right now. But yeah, so we do got some people there. And there's a lot of Freedmen history, obviously, there as well. They mentioned the other few people. They said plaintiffs Laurel Stratford, Luis Cochran Price, Tedra Williams, Don M. Adams, Don W. Adams, Stephen Williams, and the Tulsa African Ancestral Society, an unincorporated association, all claim injuries as descendants of massacre victims. Whether a plaintiff possesses legal standing turns on whether each has a sufficient interest in an otherwise justifiable controversy to obtain judicial resolution of that controversy. It says, does each plaintiff possess a legally protected interest that was injured? In fact, that is an injury that is actual, concrete, and not merely conjectural. 2, is there a causal nexus between the injury and the complaint of conduct? And 3, is there a likelihood, as opposed to mere speculation, a favorable court decision will redress the injury? And then it says, the court finds these 8 plaintiffs have failed to establish standing to sue on claims of public nuisance in this case. So they basically kind of dismissed their part. The only people they kind of say met the threshold is Leslie Benfield Randall, Viola Fletcher, and Hughes Van Ellis.
There are some people that were actually alive when it took place.
Yeah, they were alive, yeah. I'm not sure if the other people were alive necessarily, but those 3 definitely were alive. Freedmen, you got your hand up. Go for it.
Good evening, everybody. Peace and reparations. Thanks for bringing me out to speak. I was reading some of the recap, and a lot of those plaintiffs, they said, like the church really wasn't an entity in 1921. There were other people that they say didn't really exist at the time. That's basically why they said they really don't have any standing. But I do find it interesting, the basis of the lawsuit, which is a public nuisance. I mean, I have to say that's really kind of creative lawyering, because I know that I was actually listening to a podcast with the attorney, and they were talking about how, I guess at some point, the constitutional lawyer Charles Ogletree and also Johnny Cochran had attempted to sue before, I guess based on the basis of civil rights, but I guess the problem is in 1921 there really weren't any civil rights laws. I mean, there was, the 1866 for basically to prove that it was basically, I guess because of race, but I guess they felt that they wanted to prove or he said that. But I think it's very interesting. So, and when I look at that, I do think how we can kind of try, in our claims and stuff, not necessarily with reparations, but we're trying to go to the legislative route on that more than anything. But in other claims, this is really very creative and, kind of teaches us to look at all the other laws that are on the book. So, possibly looking for those claims. So, like I said, the nuisance abatement is kind of genius. So, I mean, we'll see where it goes, but, hey, good on them. I'm sorry about the other people, but if this lady get justice, then that's long overdue what we really want to see in this case. I'll land my plane.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it is creative, considering what options they do have. One of the things I was watching their press conference that they had, Attorney DeMario Solomon Simmons, he's a freedman on both sides. He's an American freedman and he's a tribal freedman. And one of the things that they mentioned in the press conference was basically examples of a public nuisance case before. So, like, for example, they said if there was like oil under your or let's say waste, like some waste under your property or something like that, and it existed for 70 years or 100 years, the public nuisance still exists and it still can cause damage. And they were using that as like, okay, well, if this is an example, the same thing is true in the context of the Tulsa massacre. This event that happened that was never fully repaired and the damage still exists. And so that was the argument that they made. I just put up their press release. I'm gonna read a little bit of it. It's pretty short. It's like 2-minute read, it says. So let me just read through real quick because this is their perspective of it. So Attorney DeMario Solomon Simmons and a team of civil rights lawyers today announced that Tulsa County Judge Carolyn Wall released her 13-page order late on August 3rd, denying the defendants' efforts to entirely dismiss plaintiffs' claims that the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre was a public nuisance under Oklahoma law, and finding that plaintiffs 106-year-old Leslie Benningfield, Mother Randall, 107-year-old Viola Mother Fletcher, and 101-year-old Hughes Van Ellis are entitled to proceed to discovery and prove that the Tulsa Race Massacre was a public nuisance that continues to impact Black Tulsans today. May 31st through June 1st, 1921, a large white mob completely decimated Tulsa's thriving all-Black community. Let me skip to the bottom. The damage caused during the massacre is estimated to be approximately 200 million in today's dollars. The court's ruling is historic, said Sarah, special counsel for pro bono initiatives. This victory not only recognizes that the massacre was a devastating attack on the Black community 100 years ago, but clears the path for our clients to prove that it was also a public nuisance that continues to harm the community today. The massacre deprived Black Tulsans of our sense of security, hard-won economic power, and vibrant community, says Solomon Simmons, a Tulsa native, and created a nuisance that continues to this day. The nuisance has led to the continued destruction of life and property in Greenwood in every quality of life metric: life expectancy, health, unemployment, education level, and financial security. For the first time in over 100 years, the last three survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre will finally have an opportunity to hold accountable the institutions that instigated and facilitated one of the worst acts of domestic terrorism in this country's history. While we are excited about the country's historic ruling, this case is by no means over, commented Michael Schwartz. We believe the discovery will unearth more facts of what truly happened at the massacre. The plaintiffs and the public deserve a deeper understanding of the events and their aftermath and a more accurate historical record. We look forward to proving our case around the massacre's ongoing catastrophic effects and demonstrating the actions that the defendants must take to repair and rebuild the Greenwood community during our clients' lifetimes, added Solomon Simmons. The court dismissed certain plaintiffs and defendants, as well as the unjust enrichment claims, and further allowed plaintiffs to amend the petition to cure potential deficiencies that would strengthen their claims. So that's kind of the take of the lawyers representing them. But yeah, what are all your thoughts? We did Freedmen, Brandy, try to get Sav and CJ Willis. Anybody else that wants to speak? But yeah, any other thoughts now that we read that too?
I'm curious what the NAACP is doing about all of this.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I kind of lost faith in the NAACP, especially after the Save Mason stuff. They kind of settled for a terrible deal. So that was really disappointing. So I'm not sure. I know Demario Solomon Simmons is an attorney. I don't know if he's part of the NAACP though. He helps kind of like American freedmen, and then he helps the freedmen from the five tribes. He helps represent them in different cases. But yeah, what up, Sav? How you doing?
Going all right. Hey, everybody.
Doing well. What are your thoughts on this? The Tulsa updates with this case.
So I kind of missed the first 20 minutes, but just listening to the whole, the more they study, the more they'll discover. They know what all happened in Tulsa because they did. They talked about it. The way they have traditions about Thanksgiving, I'm pretty sure they got traditions about Tulsa. Mm-hmm. So again, and also too, NAACP. Once I hear that, it goes one in and out the other. It was already created for the purpose of co-opting
and mixing up and messing up movements. Look at anything in NAACP has done over the past years. Nothing. When in terms of advancement, nothing. Again, we worse than we've been we're worse now than when the NAACP first started. But I mean, that's the issue with acronyms, right? These acronym letters, organizations, because it's just a blind parent from what they know can be done, right? Tulsa, that's a hard truth that America just doesn't want to admit to, because once you admit to that, then you have to admit to every other thing, and so it takes the veil off. So it's they deserve justice. They need justice. It's kind of comical. It's not comical, but it's like kind of crazy that you're looking at people close to 100, like, oh, there are people over 100 years old fighting this case, this lawsuit.
They're all over 100 years old.
Oh my gosh! Like, nobody has had to do this. No one. So I just think that we have to be the ones that love ourselves a little bit more, so that they start taking us a little bit more serious. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same. Like you said yesterday, Freedmen, ADOS, V1, FDA. We all want the same. At the end of the day, if you speak to what if you on code, I love you. I don't care what you call yourself, I love you. Because it gets super depressing when you hear the back and forth. And I think we all ready for the next movement, the next advancement, seriously, But it has to be on us, loving each other, giving each other more grace. But then also, too, calling bullshit from where it's at instead of letting it fluster out, right? We can't give our leaders grace. We have to be like, if you're going to call me a leader, then I want you to call me out, so then I can always be the leader that you want me to be, right? That's how a leader should be, because a leader knows they're not going to always be perfect. Nothing's linear when it comes to that. You got to always be moving, transforming, and becoming the best, because that's how they catch us. They catch us when they see us slipping and falling and being complacent for those who call themselves leaders, but then they don't put their money where their mouth is, right? That's where we have to be a little bit more actionable and actually being more demanding, right? So, yeah, Tulsa, it's sad, but we all see it for what it is. I'm preaching to the choir.
Yep, no, I agree with you 100%. The fact that we're kind of even fighting, like you said, these fights 100 years later, 150 years in terms of reparations, it's ridiculous. And when you mention the NAACP and everything, and what they haven't done is very true. I started to just realize, the organizations that have been really allowed to survive are the ones that can't really help us. They destroyed the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. They destroyed the Black Panther Party, and the reason that was is because they actually had the power to actually change things. And we have all these historically Black organizations, you know what I mean? And we're still in the same damn problem, but they've been around long as hell. So it's like, what are y'all doing except for just grifting, like figuring out how to grift for so long,
I feel like, oh my bad. I'm sorry. I just went on that whole soliloquy. Go ahead. I'm just gonna say, I feel like, when they passed the Tulsa Race Riot Reconciliation Act, and basically just another symbolism measure giving to, the survivors and their descendants, because it actually didn't do anything, but I think it gave them medals and promises to invest in the community. Like, that was, at that point, it's like, y'all might as well spit in their face. Like, that is so insulting to, we're going to recognize and acknowledge what we did and the loss that you suffered, but we're going to give you medals. So to me, it's just like a continuation. That's kind of what we're still seeing today. We're getting all these symbolic gestures. Okay, we'll recognize Juneteenth as a national holiday at this point. All of this is just symbolism. It means absolutely nothing. So I'm glad that, we're finally standing up and pushing back on that and not just going along with these symbolic gestures that they just continue to give us, because it's insulting at this point.
Yeah, Juneteenth
What's
without
even-
reparations is hollow. So, yeah, Freedmen, go
What's
for it.
even more insulting is the fact that the city has been gaining economic. It's like our loss is always everybody else's gain. They've been having commemorations and they raising money and stuff. So they've been milking it themselves, the city, and none of the money is going to the actual victims. I mean, it's really just insult to injury. It's like it's incredible what happens to us, what people do to us. It's like we get all the pain, everybody else gets all the benefits. And there are people like, and that's really basically the way this country is set up, and there are people that are committed to that always being the case. That's why we have to fight so hard for everything. It's like they have some Tulsa fund where it goes through the Chamber of Commerce, the money, and I mean, it's just ridiculous. And these people got to going through court hearings when obviously the city and everybody else knows what happens because they're always commemorating it. They're raising money. But they still have to do all this money to get the victims, the survivors.
Right, and I mean, they even admitted it in the Reconciliation Act. Like, they stated it. So the fact that you're even having to go through court to try to prove a claim that has already been acknowledged is ridiculous.
Yeah, they're just making us do more BS work to try to extend the delay. They're trying to wait people out, so to speak. These 3 last survivors are holding on because they want this justice, and like Demario was saying, in their lifetime. You know what I mean? Like, don't be trying to wait for, because they always try to say, "Oh, there's no living survivors or any of these things," and in this case, there's 3 specific ones. And you ain't got no excuse. They still here fighting, and give them what they're due. And I think reparations is super important to this. Keep going.
Okay, so I do have a question on that.
Yeah.
So what happens? Like, they're all over 100 years old at this point. I think one of them is actually like 107. So what happens if, God forbid, they don't, make it to see the end? Then what happens?
Yeah, they're descendants. They
Okay.
You can still sue under the estate.
right.
Okay. Just to continue the case.
Right. They mentioned this in their press conference, and basically said the same thing. So yeah, there's ways to continue it. God forbid that would happen. But this is the whole point of making it as fast as they can go. And putting
I
in
think
the work.
what's like, kind of like what we were talking about with Carol and Brian. They're out here protecting her. She gets away with what she's done. She's still living. At her age, it's okay, but you have survivors of this that are actually having to go through court and actually still fight for things that have already been proven and acknowledged. It is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a stall tactic, basically.
Germans in Germany hate Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
But they hate that's their history.
Yep.
But yet here in America, they praise and they worship their heroes. They praise and they worship their Nazis. That's why we literally live in the belly of the beast.
Yeah, I agree 100% in terms of like all these Confederate monuments and mementos. They all need to be taken down. If you are treasonous, you don't get to put up monuments in the country that you fought a civil war against. That's just blasphemous. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Well, we also don't want to erase the history, right? We don't want them to. I want them to still be reminded of what they've done, and that we're gonna always have our foot on their necks. So yeah, maybe not have it out and open to display, but we definitely need to have monuments where it's the history is always remembered and not wiped away. Because I kind of see it in a different perspective of them trying to. No, that's not how it all happened. No. No, Robert E. Lee. No, Robert E. Lee. He was a good man. No. See, what happened was, right? He was actually the one that was, the freedom walker and the Underground Railroad. Yeah. See, that's what I'm afraid of happening, right? So we also have to make sure that we to keep little mementos so they know.
Some people have suggested putting them in museums. Like, I'm not totally for it, but if some people want to preserve some of this, they could do that. But the main point is to understand even why statues were created in the first place. The original word statue comes from the actual an Egyptian word, but Greeks named it statue, but it meant shadow in Kemet, and it was supposed to be like some shadow of you, right? So something you leave behind. And so when you think about what these statues today represent, they're shadows of our past that are still casting on society today. And so we got to decide which things we want casted and publicly displayed versus like, put in an educational, historical context, right?
Oh yeah, no. We definitely need to get them off our schools. We need to get them off our
definitely.
I'm not front and center. No. That's crazy. That's different. Yeah, no. But maybe a little plaque like this is the fucked up shit that happened.
No, I feel you.
This is where so and so. Yeah, for sure. No, definitely not putting. Because you're right, and even too with the portraits, right? Like the portraits are also well designed in the sense of. When you look at even a portrait, like I always like to use the president Rafael Trio, like they purposely painted him to look more white because that's when they were pushing the whole white is right, just the whole anti-blackness with viral during that time period, 1700s, 1800s. For me personally, I think it's like for them they thought that they were going to be. This was going to happen for a long time, right? They thought that they were going to have this on lock, right? I think I was looking at a YouTuber the other day because he basically put it into. He was like, slavery was 400 years long. That means from 2019 was the last year of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's like when they yeah. Come on, y'all, think about it. The reason why we are worse off the way that we are now is because they plan for us to try to. They want us to just be gone. They want to wipe us out completely. And once we can realize that we are not a part of the team, we are not in the picture of the future as a whole, right? Not just a small collective who did it and are awakened, but the whole. That's when things will start to wake up, and I see that coming. Right, I'm listening to the way people talking. I'm look at the polls. Right, I see us not going to the polls as a good sign. Right, because we're not brainwashed and thinking like that's gonna save us. I see it as it's time for a revolution.
So I think. Yeah. I'm on the perspective that we need to get back to at least Reconstruction levels when it comes to voter turnout. They did 80% during Reconstruction. We're at like 60% right now. The highest turnout we've had since Reconstruction was fucking 2008 and 2012. We had the highest turnout than any other race, right? Now, the problem with that is we got finessed, right? we elected Obama's non-Freedmen ass, right? So we got finessed, and after that, we just kind of like got apathetic and stopped voting, and that was more of a sign of us using our powers, but not necessarily having the knowledge we have today, right? So what we have to do is use our vote and work together. We always vote as a block. The problem is we need to vote for people we actually want, not people we're served on a menu. You know what I mean?
But the people we want don't want to be politicians. Let's be honest.
Well, this is also something we have to break because during Reconstruction we had 2,000 freedmen in elected office all around the country, and these freedmen were just out of slavery. So we can't make any excuses like, "Oh, I'm not qualified. I'm not this. I'm not that." Your ancestors, just removed from slavery, ran for public office and were elected, all from the Senate to the House, to sheriffs to judges and DAs. Like, we had all of these positions filled, and that's what we need to get back to. We have to get away from voting for the Democrats and Republicans out of some like loyalty after 150 years of them not doing anything for us substantial, we have to realize, wait, if we're going to vote, how about we decide who our candidates are going to be? How about we decide what our agenda is going to be, right? And I made this analogy the other day. If you're think about the Republicans and the Democrats. They are white supremacist founded organizations at their core. They were founded by white supremacists, right? So when you think about what they want to do and their relationship to us, they have no loyalty to us. It would be the same way if some white supremacists tried to join the Freedmen Party and told us, "Hey, we want to put white supremacy as the number one agenda item for the Freedmen Party." We would laugh them out the room, right? So it's kind of like that for the Democrats and the Republicans. They're like, you do know this is a white supremacist party, right? Like, and we kind of keep forgetting, like, like we haven't been in the same situation for so long. And I don't know. We got to just realize we voted 74 years for the Republicans, 76 years for the Democrats. That's an average of 75 years, total 150, and we're back in 1865. So no reparations. So let's try it with our own party.
You make a comment about both parties being surrounded by white supremacy, but are you familiar with the Masonic and anti-Masonic parties? Because our people were technically first a part of the Republican Party. We were first the radical Republicans.
So so this goes back to again Reconstruction. In terms of the composition, the Republicans couldn't win until they gave us voting rights. They were losing to the Democrats, and that's why they gave us voting rights, because they wanted to stop losing. And so we were citizens with no voting rights, and then they gave us voting rights, and then they started winning. So it was in their self-interest, because think about this. Let me bring this up real quick. In 1877, the Democrats and Republicans came to a table and said, let's end Reconstruction and take away their voting rights. They were like, screw us. So it's not like they love us and they were like, you know what, they always deserve these voting rights. No, it was convenient at the time, and when it stopped being convenient, they took it away.
Oh yeah, you ask anybody that's a Confederate, they'll tell you, yeah, we may have lost the war, but we won the peace. Mm-hmm. We won the peace. Again, when it's all said and done, white, red or blue, the code is their leader. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not red or blue. It's always white for them. You know what I mean? It's like they don't care. So nope.
Well, see, the reason why I mentioned that whole, the anti-Masonic thing is because when you look at the Dems, who was the party of that at the beginning of it all, look at Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was known as a Masonic leader. He was a terrorist. He was a terrorist. Mm-hmm. On Trail of Tears.
So one of the
look at his history, and he got black blood in him.
Yeah.
Indian blood in him.
Yep. One of the parties that came out during Reconstruction.
They've always used our own to do the worst to us.
Yeah. One of
the Dems done.
Yeah. One of the parties that was big during Reconstruction was like the Fusion Party / Populist Party. It was basically freedmen that came together with like white people that were on code, and basically they were able to win most elections. But it was a fusion of basically black bloc, and whenever there wasn't like a black majority, because whenever there was a black majority, we put people in office. When there wasn't a black majority, the way that the Democrats were defeated is you had what was called the Fusion Party, which was a populist type party. It was like poor whites and freedmen that came together. So it's kind of like we have to understand political power is super important, and they don't want us to exercise it. So, even think about what happened with this case with the judge. Judges are elected, so like this judge needs to be fired anyways, because even though the judge made a somewhat positive decision, it's still a white supremacist decision, clearly, So
I say that Oklahoma is probably the reddest of the red states.
Oh yeah.
I'm surprised she even let it go for the three living survivors at this point.
Right. Yeah.
You know how many threats she got? No, she didn't. Listen. Mm-hmm. She knows. Listen.
Yep. Hey, CJ Willis, you've been up here. What's up? What are your thoughts so far?
It's really interesting. The ruling was kind of like it's sort of like a double-edged sword in that on the one hand, obviously what they're trying to do is cut off descendants.
Right.
But on the other hand, that also gives it also sets kind of precedent for other people to move forward with claims.
Yep.
To look at this and move forward with claims, if they can use the same type of trial strategy in other places where similar massacres have happened. So it's kind of interesting. I was trying to when you were reading it, I was trying to remember the legal terminology because obviously I'm not a lawyer, but I know the parts that were dismissed, were they dismissed with prejudice or without prejudice?
That's a good question. Let me see if I can bring it up. Prejudice. We control fine. Let's see. I'm scrolling through it really quickly. Alternate claims with prejudice are denied. It doesn't say with or without prejudice. Oh, yeah, it says with prejudice. Alternate claims with prejudice. With prejudice, yeah. I don't know if all of them are with prejudice, but at least that one is.
So with prejudice means that
this one
cannot be brought again.
number 2 says shall be dismissed without prejudice and with without prejudice with leave granted to file a second amended petition. So claim number 2 could be brought again if it's amended.
Okay, right. So was that for just the 3 survivors or for
yeah, just I believe just let me see. For said defendant stipulate the defects could be cured. So yeah, it says okay, yeah, so it does apply to the unjust enrichment against defendants of the city. For the Metropolitan Area Commission, Board of Community Commissioners for Tulsa County and the Tulsa Regional Chamber. So they do say that one can be amended.
Okay, so that one was without prejudice. Okay. All right, so that I see why the lawyers said what they said. Obviously they want to be upbeat too, but but yeah, the fact that they dismiss with prejudice the case for descendants is like I said, it's kind of like they're obviously trying to cut off descendants, and that sets precedent. But But like I said, it also opens up a precedent for other cases.
Definitely.
So I'm feeling kind of like it's yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to even put it into words. Like I said, it is a win in some aspects,
right?
But in others, it closes a door in other aspects. So, yeah, that's all I can really say about it.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. It is kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Like they're at least letting the 3 remaining survivors move forward, but it seems like it's going to take another amendment of these petitions to kind of go after the other cases, or if they need to file something new. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting. I really hope that at least there's some justice that comes out of this because this has been 100 years on. It's kind of ridiculous. It's just sad. All right, we're getting close to the end of the hour. I'm gonna give everyone last thoughts. So we'll start with Freedmen, then Brandy, then CJ, then Heavenly, then Sad. Any last thoughts, Freedman? Freedman Angel. Maybe she's away. How about you, Brandy? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just gonna be paying attention to it to see how it plays out. I still think it's just ridiculous that they even have to go to court and fight for this after everything that they've been through. Like, it makes zero sense to want to survive that.
sure they lost family members and, you know, probably still have nightmares about some of that. And then they're basically going through court fighting and reliving it as well. So it's like they can go down there and pander to them and celebrate it, but you can't do anything to actually push this through and give them what they deserve. So I'll just keep an eye on it.
Yeah, most definitely. We definitely need to keep track of this and make sure that we, support and keep everyone accountable because when cases aren't followed, that's when they know they can get away with shortchanging someone. So definitely got to keep track of this. CJ Willis, any last thoughts?
I kind of said what I thought. My thing. I'm just remembering something that I haven't been keeping up with. I wonder if anybody has, but the investigation of the deaths of the woman and her husband, who was the head of the
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Has anybody heard anything about that?
Yeah, we did a space maybe like a month and a half ago now, and what we looked at then was I watched like as many videos I could find on it, right? And I could tell you there was almost no coverage on it. Basically, they tried to say that this is what the police are trying to make it seem like. And the media. They're trying to make it seem like it was like murder suicide type of thing. Like he killed her and then tried to commit suicide but failed and then died later in the hospital. Because what they say is she was dead already in the house and he was shot too, but he survived and they took him to the hospital where he died. So that's not a really explanation. And they're saying, oh, it doesn't look. It seems like it's a domestic thing. They're saying things like that. Whereas, it seems kind of sketchy because she was the head of the Greenwood Black Wall Street commission or something like that committee. And yeah, the fact that they're not really looking deeply into this and are just trying to, brush it under the rug as some domestic violence incident is kind of sad. I definitely think it's mysterious and I think it needs to be further investigated. That's the last I heard, though. I haven't heard anything new. Anybody else hear anything about that new? Yeah, that's the last thing I heard about it, CJ. Heavenly, any last thoughts?
Thank you. Thank you so much for this space.
You're welcome. Totally. Yeah, I think it's important that we read through this. Thank you.
Yeah, I really hope that the people in Oklahoma, the Black people in Oklahoma, really get together and wake up and use the power that they have. There's 60,000 Black people there. I'm pretty sure most of them are probably slave descendants. It's about 15% of the population. If they all come together, so much could get done. They could do financial boycotts. I mean, if they just come together, they could really change a lot. So it's really unfortunate that that's not happening as much as it should. But maybe that'll happen soon. All right, thank you. All right, cheers.
Yeah, thank you for that. Cheers. Yeah, I totally think they could because they have a white mayor right now. They have there's a lot of white people in power, and they could totally change that. That Tulsa particularly could be far more ruled by blacks. I think part of the problem is they're trying to obviously gentrify things. Like a lot of the people, I was watching one documentary and they're showing like the Black Wall Street site, and the lady was talking about how like rent has gone up and makes it more expensive, and et cetera, et cetera. So who's raising the rent? The people who stole the land that we used to own, So it's kind of like full circle.
Like they don't even talk about the Tulsa massacre in Oklahoma. Like I went to Oklahoma City public schools, and it's nothing that they even really bring up or discuss. It's one of those things that you hear about it, from each other, or you go research it yourself to learn about it. They don't even mention this in schools.
Yeah, one thing that's kind of messed. I was met this dude from Oklahoma who turned out to be like an a-hole, right? And so I asked him, I was like, do you know about the Tulsa, massacre and bombings and all of that? And he was like, yeah, my dad shook, when I was in elementary school, right? And I'm like, oh my god, he's over there talking about the Timothy McVeigh. Yeah, he over there talking about the Timothy McVeigh. I'm like, bro, get out of here. You don't even know what I'm talking about. So, and I was specific. I said Tulsa, you know what I mean? And that was not in Tulsa, it was in Oklahoma City. So, anyways, it was just like really his ignorance. He thought he was so right, you know what I mean? He thought he was so correct that I was like, God damn, that's sad. So yeah, it's they're very uneducated. They're just
We just walked away from that conversation.
Oh yeah, that was like yeah, that was like all right, block. So you don't know nothing, bro. You're a racist too. Anyway, Sam, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I'm surprised somebody brought up Lovecraft Country and how they canceled that after the first season.
Yeah, definitely.
The creators, the writers,
they were using Tulsa.
Yep. And I love that museum. When people could go put in their name, and then they can go and find about their whole family history.
Right.
Something like real life, like you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And it probably will only make sense to probably have the hubs in the South for real, because that's where
most people are. Yeah.
But I think that would be something like we talk about museums. Now that would be a really great concept because when you think about it, we do have a lot of historians who already, do the work. And if they can come up with, and come together, get the funding, and start doing that, I think that would really help people because I think when it comes down, people just don't know how to do it, right? It's a skill. It takes a really big skill, right? Like if we could start paying, if there was a way to start paying the people that could find old dude's uncle, who could find old dude's profile from just old dude's uncle from profile, like there's a girl out here who are resourceful. Like I don't know, like I mean some dudes too. Like if we started putting our brain power stuff like that, we could start doing a lot of the ideas that were in Lovecraft Country, right? And not to mention the own power that we hold within our own selves now. That's why they didn't like Lovecraft. Because Lovecraft was dropping gems.
It brought Oklahoma and Black Wall Street back to life. And I think that those ideas are dangerous, right? And I think this is the same thing that's happening in Hollywood with Black Panther. Like they basically shitted on Freedmen in the first one, you know what I mean? It was kind of like Killmonger, for example, was like totally right. You know what I mean? He could have done it like slightly differently, but he was right. He won the fight, and he was like, "Let's do something for the people." All right, like especially the freedmen who ain't getting nothing while y'all over here chilling. You know. Yeah, and the CIA, right? He was like, "Nah." T'Challa's like, "Nah, I'm on the CIA side." Look at that. You know what I mean? Like, come on now. You gotta be down with the brother trying to free everybody. All Killmonger had to do was go to the United Nations. But that's how they try to put us. You know what I mean? Why couldn't he go to the United Nations and be like, "Bro, this is what we're doing"? He was in power.
Because they did that on purpose.
Exactly.
Malcolm got killed because of that.
Yep.
He went to the UN and he just laid down the case. Could have won.
Exactly.
The people behind him. And that's why, I really do believe we have the recipes already.
Yep. And I learned that W.B. Du Bois, he when they were charging the United States with genocide in the UN, they revoked his passport where he was in Paris, like trying to represent us, and tried to basically prevent him from returning from the United States. He got exiled because him and Paul Robeson and a few other people charged genocide. So like it just goes to show you like the vitriol, you know what I mean? So we definitely have to like keep the pressure up, not let this go away. We clarified our agenda items for the party. It's reparations now, Freedmen reconstruction, and genocide prevention. And those three things cover essentially all the main priorities that we have. And, we're going to run candidates on them. And even our boot camp is, organized around that. And then that's kind of like the basis of our political education, like everybody learning those things and upgrading our language, because benign neglect and racism don't fully capture what we're going through. It's genocide, and when we use other words, we're kind of belittling our suffering. When I actually looked at the definition of genocide and saw that every definition applied and you only needed to meet one, I was like, God damn. Okay, we definitely need to do what the Black Panther said in terms of heightening the contradictions, right? We got to speak very clearly, because they'll try to say, oh, well, you weren't a slave. Well, we're still experiencing genocide. Boom. Like, shut up. Uh, I'm not racist against Asians. Okay, we're experiencing genocide. Shut up. Oh, I get pulled over too. Okay, we're talking about genocide. Shut up. You know what I mean? Like that. We're not talking about getting pulled over, getting speeding tickets. We're talking about getting killed. We're talking about, our high hysterectomy rates, infant mortality, maternal mortality. We're talking about disparities in sentencing. Talking about apartheid in all of these areas.
That Poppy Kulo guy. that Bojolo guy.
Right.
When he said, why do y'all feel like y'all need all this?
Exactly.
All this stuff to you.
Exactly.
That's all he needed to say.
Right.
That's all he needed to say.
Exactly. Because that just shows the ignorance.
Or even people that talk like your family is Italian.
Yeah.
You came over in 1960.
Yeah, when you didn't help build the country, you got to put some respect on the Freedmen name, because, like, we built the American dream, we built the land of opportunity, and we need to, correct the record on that, because they even trying to usurp that. But yeah, now I'm just ranting, so let me get off here. This was a good space, though. Really appreciate y'all coming through. We read through that judgment, and I think it's again important that we go to the sources of these things. Like, I don't read like really news articles like that. I go straight to the source. Like, instead of reading a news article about like Roe versus Wade got overturned, I'm gonna read the decision. You know what I mean? Or at least read as much that's relevant. So that's what we got to start doing. Going to the sources. We got to start reading bills. We got to start reading executive orders. We got to start reading Supreme Court decisions, and then that got to also trickle down on the state and local level. Like, all these cities and mayors and city councils, like, they're doing stuff. State legislators are doing stuff. So we got to keep track of all of these things. And we ran the numbers. It's like 535 people in Congress, and you got the president and vice president, and it's like what, 9 people in the Supreme Court. So it's really like a less than 1,000 people we got to keep track of, basically. And then you got like 50 governors, right? So even if you add the governors and the 50, well, you got more mayors than that. But basically, most of us are following 1,000 people. You know what I mean? So if we could follow 1,000 people, we could try to keep track of at least the most important people that are making decisions about our lives. You know what I mean? Like, keeping them honest and keeping them in check, because when we let them know that we're watching them, they notice. They notice. So let's make sure we keep it on. All right, y'all. Thanks for coming. Y'all have a great Friday, great weekend. We'll be back Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. In the meantime, what y'all should be doing is going through that candidate boot camp we created, and the test should be out Sunday or Monday. But yeah, go through it, study up, and then run for office. We need more freedmen in office. But yeah, appreciate y'all time. Y'all have a great day. Peace.